Before midnight. 6 brutal mysteries of Michael Jackson's autopsy that haunt Autopsy. The clock ticked closer to midnight, and shadows danced under the flickering streetlights, whispering secrets too dark to reveal. What lay behind the closed doors of the coroner's office was a fearsome mystery that had the world holding its breath. 6 shocking revelations emerged from Michael Jackson's autopsy, each more brutal than the last. Even now, years later, they send shivers down the spine and raise more questions than answers. How could this legend, the king of pop, leave behind a legacy so tainted with darkness? From the moment the news broke, it felt like a punch to the gut. A star so bright left the stage, but the question was, what happened in those final moments? The first bizarre detail that sent chills rippling through fans was his health. Reports suggested he was suffering greatly, with needle marks tracing his skin like the scars of war. His heart, once the source of countless hit songs, was barely beating, riddled with ailments that seemed to skip the boundaries of reason. How could someone so vibrant become so fragile? As whispers of prescription medications and strange concoctions slithered through tabloids, mounting tensions escalated. The darkness deepened when those findings revealed an alarming level of propofol enough to put down a horse. Felt unreal. How did it come to this? The icon, the entertainer, cradled in the arms of danger disguised as healing. Nearby, a crowd breathed in shock and bewilderment, murmurs echoing around them. Was this an accident or something more sinister? What came next was even more unsettling. Gruesome details about the state of his body haunted investigators. An autopsy revealing everything from bruises that marked his once flawless skin to a surprising absence of certain organs began to sound like the plot for a horror film. Voices of disbelief floated in the air. Could it be a cover-up? Was someone hiding the real truth? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the mystery thickened, speculations ran wild. The autopsy hinted at a chilling disconnect. How could someone so beloved be taken by such twisted fates? Details about the infamous doctor, whispers of malpractice, and allegations of greed spiraled around like a tempest. Each detail pulling the reader deeper into a vortex of questions. Who stood to gain from Michael's fall? And were there darker forces at play? Tales of conspiracy spread like wildfire, igniting curiosity and dread within the hearts of millions. In the end, as the light dimmed and tension soared, one thought remained clear. The answers lay somewhere within the shadows of his final days, waiting. What secrets would they reveal? The air quaked with uncertainty. What horrors and truths about the king of pop's last moments still awaited to be unveiled? The clock continued ticking, inching closer to midnight, and the truth hung just out of reach. The chill in the air felt electric as the clock's hands inched closer to midnight. Doubts coiled around the truth like a dense fog, and the shadows seemed to whisper tales of betrayal and loss. What lay behind those sterile walls of the coroner's office was about to push the limits of belief. Inside, forensic investigators meticulously pieced together the fragmented remains of a life that had once dazzled the entire globe. They exchanged furtive glances, each one sharing a silent question. How did they get here? Michael's legacy, marred by rumors and assumptions, cast a long shadow on the proceedings. The team delved deeper into the mysterious circumstances of his death, knowing the weight of what they unearthed could rock the very foundation of fame itself. As they examined the fragile frame, a red flag emerged. Missing organs? How could that be? The absence of his heart, lungs, and brain hinted at a sinister cover-up. The narrative unraveled further. Was this a case of sacrifice? Or was it simply the haunting reality of a life lost too soon? Each member of the team felt it, the tightening grip of tension tightening within their chests. The weight of significance hung heavy in the air. Outside, The streets were alive with murmurs. Fans congregated, wielding signs and candles like shields against the encroaching darkness. Hearts beat collectively, rallying behind the question that echoed despite their grieving. What really happened to Michael? With every passing second, their confusion evolved into a smoldering wildfire of theories, accusations, and conspiracy. A hushed voice pierced the thrumming noise. A local journalist had stumbled upon a lead. Reports of a shadowy group, connected to dubious practices in the entertainment industry, sent shivers down her spine. A group that aligned with Michael's rise, but fancying themselves in his fall? Details that seemed to paint a much darker picture began to emerge. Had they orchestrated events that led to this devastating outcome? The sordid tales of exploitation festered in the minds of listeners, drowning out the murmurs of mourning. The ominous implications rang clear. Someone, somewhere, had something to gain. The journalist clutched her notebook even tighter, her hands trembling. She had sketched out implications of money, wealthy individuals driven by greed, craving the spirit of a legend for brutal gains. With her pulse racing, she raced against time to uncover the truth. Hours passed like molten lead, and questions danced endlessly in her mind. Were the people closest to him complicit in a web of pain? What had they witnessed in those final hours? Each whisper of betrayal fueled her relentless search for answers, digging deeper into the underbelly of the industry that had once idolized him. Yet as the clock struck the witching hour, a new thought gnawed at her. What if the real horror lay not in the shadows of the past but in the very world they inhabited? Her heart pounded harder. She was onto something. But what? The chase for truth turned electric. She couldn't back down now. Just as confidence surged within her, an ominous figure emerged from the shadows, their face obscured by darkness. An unsettling silence blanketed the night, and dread washed over her. What secrets were they guarding? And were they willing to protect their silence at any cost? As she drew a shaky breath, the weight of her discovery pressed down like a heavy mantle. The moment of reckoning loomed just ahead. What had she awakened? The last minutes ticked away, their significance spiraling into dangerous unknowns. Fear coursed through her veins as the figure stepped closer, the moonlight barely illuminating their features. A heartbeat echoed in her ears, matching the frantic tempo of her thoughts. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper, though she knew it was more a plea than a challenge. The cloaked figure paused, their breath visible in the frosty air. "You're digging into places you shouldn't touch," they warned, voice low and gravelly, each word a sharp knife cutting through the silence. Panic flickered in her chest. Had she ventured too far into a truth that wasn't meant to be uncovered? "Why are you hiding? What do you know about Michael?" she pressed, her determination rising even as fear tightened its grip. The figure shifted, half hidden in the darkness, and for a moment, she thought they might vanish. Then, they took a step back, shifting into the sunlight that broke through the treetops, revealing an unsettling sense of familiarity. Her heart lurched. This wasn't just another random person. She recognized that face. You worked with him." "It's not that simple," they said, eyes darting around as if expecting shadows to whisper back. "People don't just die, especially not legends. They get silenced." Silenced? The word echoed in her mind, dripping with eerie foreboding. She needed answers, not more questions. "What do you mean? What did you see?" The figure glanced towards a nearby alley, hesitating. "Meet me there. It's safer," they whispered before retuning to the shadows, casting off a lingering shiver. Every instinct screamed at her to follow, but hesitation clawed at her heels. Yet the promise of truth pulled her in, its magnetism irresistible. Heart pounding, she bolted towards the alley, adrenaline fueling her urgency. Each step felt like an echo, vibrating off the cold brick. In the alley, the figure waited, their expression tense. "I heard dark things about Michael's last days." "What kind of things?" She leaned closer, desperate for clarity, but fear twisted its way through her gut. The figure hesitated again, eyes scanning the street for lurking souls. They wanted him to be perfect until he wasn't. There are those who profit from his pain. Profit? Confusion clouded her mind, but something deep inside told her this held significance. What do you mean profit? Sacrifices, offerings. You see, not every death is just a tragedy. Some are carefully crafted. A wave of icy realization swept through her. Could it be? Had powerful people manipulated him, using him like a puppet strung by greed? Look, you need to know. The figure was suddenly cut off by a sudden noise. Footsteps echoed nearby, quick and violent. Panic washed over her in waves. Leave now, they urged, eyes widening with the urgency of a sensing predator. She turned, but it was too late. A group materialized from the shadows, faces obscured. She's been asking too many questions. One of them growled, stepping forth, menace practically radiating from them. The world melted away, heart hammering against her ribs as she understood. She was now tangled in something far deeper than she had ever anticipated. No longer just a journalist probing into Michael's death, but a player in a deadly game. As they closed in around her, the figure cursed under their breath, making a last desperate lunge toward her. Get out of here, run. But it was too late. The darkness had its grip solidified, and she realized she couldn't run from the truth anymore. Not without knowing what lurked behind it. What would they do to keep her silent? A sharp gasp escaped her lips as she turned to flee, but the alley seemed to fold in on itself. Shadows stretched, darkening corners as if eager to swallow her whole. The chill gnawed at her bones, urging her to move faster. Don't let her escape. A voice thundered, sending a jolt of ice down her spine. Heavy footsteps pounded behind her, quick and determined. She sprinted, the cold air burning her lungs. Her heart raced as adrenaline propelled her forward, urging her to find safety. Every step echoed against the brick walls, amplifying the dread clawing at her insides. The alley twisted and turned like a labyrinth. She glanced back, catching a glimpse of the figures closing in, eyes glinting with a predatory thirst. Fear clung to her, thick and suffocating. Stop her, came another command, the voice sharp like glass shattering. It pierced through her, almost physical in its intensity. A storm of thoughts crashed around in her mind. What were they after? Information? Her life? Questions rattled futilely as she twisted through the narrowing passage. The shadows loomed larger, almost sentient, urging her to surrender. Then, a doorway emerged, beckoning her with a sliver of hope. She barreled through it and slammed the door behind her, heart thumping erratically against her ribcage. The sudden silence was deafening, muffling the chaos outside. The room was dimly lit, filled with stacks of dusty records and old film reels. She pressed her back against the door, catching her breath, listening for the footsteps to recede. Her skin prickled with anxiety. How long could she hide here? Who's there? A voice called out from the shadows, startling her. She spun around, eyes wide, searching for the figure. It was an older man, grizzled and weary. His clothes were tattered, yet there was an intelligence in his eyes that kept her grounded. You're not supposed to be here. She stammered, the fear still thundering in her chest. I was being chased. They're coming for me. He frowned, glancing nervously at the door before stepping closer. Those people, you have to understand, they're not just after information. They won't stop until they silence you. Silence me? The words tumbled out, heavy with disbelief. Why? What do they want? The truth, he replied, his voice low and grim. Michael wasn't who everyone thought. Some people need that facade to remain intact, and they'll kill anyone who threatens it. A chill traced down her spine as she considered his words. You know what happened to him? Desperation seeped into her tone. Tell me, please. I know enough, he said, taking a deep breath. But it comes with a price. You need to be ready for the consequences. There are dark forces at play here, much bigger than you or me. The door rattled, loud and aggressive. Fear surged through her again. They can't find me here. They will, he said, his voice urgent. This place is no refuge. You need to go deeper into the truth. If you want safety, you must confront what you've stumbled upon. She hesitated, torn between the safety of anonymity and the relentless pursuit of understanding. I can't just run. Not now. I need to know. Then we don't have much time. He reached behind a shelf, revealing a small, worn notebook. You must watch for the signs. They might be closer than you think. As he handed it to her, the door buckled. A loud crack echoed, and she felt a rush of dread wash over her. The cloaked figures were relentless. Her pulse quickened as she stared into the man's eyes, realizing this was just the starting line. What if I'll never escape this? He grabbed her shoulder, fierce and unyielding. Find the truth about Michael. It's your only way out. With a last glance back at the door, the shuddering sound striking against her nerves, she steeled her resolve. The shadows of the world beyond beckoned, but now the weight of her decisions felt heavier than ever. And just as the door broke open, she understood. The line between hunter and hunted blurred in a game far darker than anticipated. What secrets did the notebook hold, and would digging deeper drag her into? Darkness she could never escape? Panic surged within her as the door splintered, the wood creaking ominously. The man's eyes widened, an urgent plea behind them. You have to go. Now. She clutched the notebook tightly, its worn cover rough against her palm. He darted toward the window, glancing out into the murky darkness. We're not safe here. They'll come through any minute. The thought chilled her. But where? How do I get away? Each word felt heavy with the weight of despair as he turned back to her, urgency sparking in his gaze. Follow the alleys. You'll have to make a run for it. Find the old cinema on 5th, you'll know it when you see the neon sign flickering. You'll be safe there for now. She barely had time to process his words before the door burst open, the hinges shrieking in protest. Dark figures swarmed in like a storm, shrouded in shadows that melded into the night. Keep moving, the old man yelled. She darted past him, heart pounding so loudly she thought it might explode. She sprinted down a narrow corridor lined with soft dust and the scent of mildew. The hostile growls of her pursuers echoed behind her. She could hear them, smell their desperation. The thought of going back, letting them catch her, was unbearable. As she raced through the maze of the building, she shot through a door that spilled into the outside world. Cold air hit her like a slap, sharp and invigorating. She didn't stop to look back but launched herself into the unforgiving streets of the city. She could barely breathe as she skidded into the shadows of another alley. Bright neon lights from storefronts buzzed overhead. They painted the night in a false warmth. But the sense of safety was fleeting. Overhead sirens wailed in the distance. The mood shifted from dangerous to downright ominous. As she turned the corner, her eyes caught sight of a muddy, abandoned path. It seemed to lead deeper into the heart of the city. A quick glance behind revealed the figures emerging from the building. They were closer now, determined. Willing her legs to push harder, she charged down the gritty streets. The night thrummed with uncertainty, and each step echoed like a countdown. Was she running toward freedom or straight into a trap? The old man's words clung to her mind, insistent and haunting. Discover the truth about Michael. But what truth? And why did it feel like the weight of the world rested on her shoulders? Suddenly, she stumbled upon the flickering neon sign. The old cinema stood decrepit but alive with promise. Glinting red and blue lights flickered sporadically, a beacon in the dark chaos surrounding her. With a burst of determination, she rushed toward it, stumbling up the steps. As she pushed through the doors, the rusted handle felt alive in her grip. Inside, the silence was a stark contrast to the chaotic night outside. Dust motes swirled in the thin beams of light that broke through boarded windows. Across the empty lobby, a shadow shifted. Her heart leaped. Was it more danger? Who's there? She called, gripping the notebook tightly, its presence a small comfort against the whirlwind of fear that threatened to consume her. A figure stepped into the light, and her breath caught in her throat. It was another face she recognized, but didn't expect someone she thought she could trust. Why are you here? The voice dripped with tension, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped from one trap into another. She needed answers, but as she faced this new figure, every instinct in her screamed that she had moments to decide who would become her ally and who might just as easily betray her. The game was changing, and the next move could be her last. Who had she just brought herself into the fold with? And what secrets would they unveil together before the clock struck midnight? Why are you here? The familiar face was a mix of concern and something darker, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Each second felt like ice, freezing her thoughts. The flickering neon behind her cast a surreal glow, and the silence of the cinema deepened the tension. I'm running from them, she managed to stammer, pointing toward the door, her voice trembling. The figures outside were living shadows, echoes of her nightmares spilling from her past. They're right behind me. I need help. The woman's expression softened, but it was brief. You should not have come here. This place isn't safe for either of us. As she spoke, Tanya could see the muscles in her jaw tightening, a mask of fear barely hidden behind resolve. Who are they? Tanya pressed, her heart racing. She took a step back, away from the door, feeling the panic rise again. What do they want from me? Those are questions we can't afford to answer right now. The woman glanced at the entrance anxiously. The ominous sound of footsteps echoed in the hall, and Tanya felt her stomach twist. We need to move. Now. Before Tanya could respond, her companion was already moving toward a door leading to the ruined auditorium. The wooden doors creaked as they pushed through, and a wave of dust engulfed them. Tanya followed, each step heavier with dread. The auditorium was a ghost of its former glory. Old seats tipped over and the stage shrouded in darkness. Glimmers of broken glass and debris crunched softly beneath her shoes. The air felt thick, charged with unspoken secrets and unresolved fears. Here, the woman said, pulling aside a tattered curtain, revealing a hidden passageway leading beneath the stage. We can't stay out in the open. Tanya hesitated. What if they find us down there? They will find us if we stay. We have to be smarter than that. Her eyes burned with urgency. It was a challenge, a dare that pushed Tanya forward. As they slipped into the narrow passage, the darkness swallowed them. The air turned cool, damp, thick with the scent of mildew. She could hear her own heartbeat, pounding in her ears like a war drum. Your notebook, the woman murmured, reaching out to touch the bundle clutched in Tanya's hands. What's in there? I need to know. Feeling suddenly protective, Tanya pressed it closer to her chest. It's personal. It's not meant for anyone else. The woman's face hardened. If it holds the key to why they're after you, it is meant for me. You don't understand what this means. What this could unleash. I don't care. Tanya snapped, the frustration bubbling to the surface. I just want to survive. In an instant, the woman stiffened, moving closer, eyes narrowed. Survival comes at a price. Are you willing to pay it? Suddenly, footsteps reverberated from above, stopping just outside the auditorium doors. Her heart raced. They were close, so very close. Tanya had stolen a glance through the dust-smeared glass just moments ago, and now her instincts screamed that time was running out. They're here, she whispered with panic lacing her voice. The woman grabbed her arm, urgency radiating from her grip. This way. They dove deeper into the passage, adrenaline fueling their flight as the voices grew louder. Tanya felt a rush of fear and determination. She knew, despite the danger, something crucial was waiting to be uncovered, something tied to her and the legacy of Michael. The stakes had never felt higher. With a sudden jolt, the ground beneath them trembled as a panel shifted, revealing a hidden chamber below. But as they prepared to descend, a cold voice echoed through the passage, sending chills down her spine. You can run, but you cannot hide forever. We will find you. Tanya looked at the woman, fear and uncertainty clouding her judgment. Who was she really, and did she really want to trust her? As they plunged into darkness, the question loomed larger than life. What secrets awaited them in the depths, and could they ever escape the force closing in around them? The moment they touched the ground of the hidden chamber, a rush of stale air hit Tanya's face, heavy with secrets long buried. Fear clung to her like a second skin. She squeezed the notebook even tighter, the weight of it feeling both familiar and ominous. Move! The woman's whisper pierced through the darkness. They stepped further into the room, where shadows twisted and contorted, cut from the flickering edges of what little light managed to seep in. Tanya's heart was hammering in her chest. "What is this place?" she gasped. "The remnants of a past we can't afford to revisit," the woman replied, urgency bubbling beneath her calm facade. "Follow me." Following her lead, they navigated past old movie props and rotting set pieces. Tanya struggled to keep her breathing steady, each rustle and creak in the room making her jump. The anxiety was suffocating, but she forced herself to focus, to listen. Whoever was after her wasn't too far behind as they moved deeper into the room. Tanya felt the eyes of the past bore down on her. Was it just her imagination? Or were there whispers riding on the stale air? She shook off the chill creeping up her spine. She couldn't afford distractions now. "Over here," the woman urged, pointing towards a door partially hidden behind layers of dust and cobwebs. They rushed toward it, but as they approached, Tanya caught sight of a faded sign that read, "Do not enter." Her breath caught in her throat. "What's behind that door?" Tanya asked, dread pooling in her stomach. "Answers and perhaps a few more questions," the woman replied, her tone sharp. "But we don't have time for second guesses." The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading further down into the abyss. With one last glance behind them, they plunged into the darkness below. As they descended, the woman suddenly halted, a look of recognition spreading across her face. "This place, it feels familiar. I've been here before," she said, her voice laced with surprise and fear. "Why would you?" Tanya started, but the echo of footsteps startled them both into silence. "They're coming," the woman hissed. "Keep moving." The last few steps to the bottom felt endless, but they finally emerged into another chamber. This one was larger, with walls lined by shelves that seemed to sag under the weight of old scripts and curdled memories. It smelled faintly of decay. "What is all this?" Tanya whispered, stepping cautiously forward. Her fingers brushed against an aged script, the words barely legible. "It's a collection of unfinished project stories never told." The woman's voice was barely above a whisper, as if even the air itself was listening. They all connected to him, to Michael. "Michael?" Tanya's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" Before she could get an answer, a loud crash echoed from the direction they had come. The woman instinctively moved closer, eyes darting to the shadows, panic flashing across her face. "We have to find a way out," Tanya urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. But the woman shook her head, a deep frown forming. "We can't leave yet. The truth is here and it won't wait for us." The tension hung thick, like a storm cloud threatening to burst. "What truth? What are you hiding from me?" Tanya demanded, the fear bubbling into frustration. "I won't let the secrets die with those who want them buried." They exchanged a charged look, the kind that could ignite a flame. Tanya's fingers trembled, her resolve fraying. Could she trust this woman? Could she trust the trail of shadows they were on? Another crash, closer this time. Tanya's heart raced. "What if they find us here?" The woman's eyes locked onto hers, fierce and unwavering. "Then we fight. But first we dig deeper. We can't give up now, not when we're so close." Just then, the lights flickered erratically, and a voice broke the stillness, chilling Tanya's blood. "You're not alone anymore." The air turned electric, charged with an unsettling energy as they both turned toward the source, hearts pounding with the realization that they might have just awakened something ancient and more dangerous than they could have ever anticipated. What lay ahead could change everything. The truth had been buried, but at what cost would it be revealed? The sudden voice hung in the air like a dense fog, chilling them to the bone. Tanya's breath caught, the words looping in her mind. "You're not alone anymore." What the hell was that? Tanya gasped, pressing against the dusty shelves for comfort. The woman's face had gone pale, and for the first time, panic seeped into her expression. "We should have never come back here. We hoped it was buried. But they're restless." Tanya's heart raced, her instincts screaming at her to run. "Who's restless?" "Those who lived through the stories," the woman said, her voice barely a whisper. "Those tied to Michael. They're not just memories. they held on. And they're angry. With that, the atmosphere shifted, becoming thick and palpable. The lights flickered again, long enough for Tanya to see shapes gathering at the edges of her vision, dark figures weaving in and out of the shadows, ready to pounce. "Stay close," the woman commanded, a sudden urgency rekindling in her voice. "We need to find what holds them here." What do we look for?" Tanya's words rushed out, laced with panic. The woman turned towards one of the far shelves, her eyes narrowing. She yanked a heavy script from the collection, dust swirling like ghosts at its release. The cover was marked with a name: The Forgotten Chronicles of Michael. "What's that?" Tanya leaned in, her curiosity igniting amidst the fear. "It's a collection of his unfinished stories and scripts, ones that didn't make it to the screen. Said he poured his soul into them. But giving them life again may have awakened something." A loud thud echoed, and the walls vibrated slightly. Panic surged through Tanya as shadows grew longer, stretching toward them. "We need to go." "No, wait," the woman said, urgency in her eyes. She opened the script and began to read aloud, her voice a low chant blending with the crumbling atmosphere. Each word hit Tanya like a wave, a mixture of sorrow and rage seeped from the pages. The shadows danced violently, screeching softly as if preparing to retaliate. "What are you doing?" Tanya shouted, her pulse quickening. "We need to leave, to understand what they want, to quell them." The woman's eyes were wild, lost in the frenzy of the story, as if the ink had summoned them. Suddenly, the thumping grew louder, and the air turned heavy, suffocating them. Images flickered in the corners of Tanya's vision, a celebration. A fall from grace. Whispered regrets, things that felt too intimate, too familiar. They weren't just eerie. They were personal. Then, with a deafening crack, one of the shadows lunged forward. It was enveloped in darkness, with eyes that glowed like embers. Tanya stumbled back, and in that split second, she felt the woman's hand clasp her wrist tightly. "Fight! You can't let them take you. You have to choose," she screamed over the cacophony. "Choose? Choose what?" Tanya's voice trembled, fear and disbelief flooding through her veins like ice. As shadows spiraled closer, clenching in on the woman's form, Tanya's mind raced. She flicked her gaze toward the script, teetering between the allure of truth and the grave danger it posed. The glint in the shadow's eyes sparked something deep within her, a dark curiosity pulling her forward. What if Michael's truth could free them? The moment her thoughts crystallized, the shadows hesitated, as if waiting for her answer. The air pulsed with a pervasive energy, thick with uncertainty. The woman's grip tightened, urging her. "Focus, Tanya. This is bigger than both of us." In that charged moment, Tanya faced the shadows deep in the abyss, a choice looming before her. Would she uncover the haunting truth, risk everything, and confront whatever waited beyond the veil of the forgotten? A shadow lunged again, and the lights flickered one last time before extinguishing entirely, plunging them into utter darkness. The echoes of time whispered, leaving Tanya at a precipice deep in the dark. Would she step forward into the unknown, or let the weight of buried truths drag her down? The decision loomed, magnified by the chilling silence that followed. What awaited them in the darkness was a mystery she could hardly grasp, yet it beckoned her. Would she dare to unveil what had remained hidden? The darkness swallowed them whole, wrapping around Tanya like a suffocating blanket. Heart pounding, she strained to hear something, anything, but only silence greeted her. The shadows loomed like predators, waiting for just the right moment to strike. "Keep reading," Tanya called out, the urgency in her voice barely masking her fear. The woman, still gripping the script, hesitated, caught between the pull of the shadows and the words she had already begun to recite. "Maybe it will reveal something," she finally whispered. Looking as if her sanity hung by a thread, she resumed her chant. The air vibrated with portent. Words came alive, echoing through the empty space, sparking fleeting images in Tanya's mind. She saw a young Michael, eyes shimmering with hope, crafting stories that painted his soul. But then the scene warped, twisting into darkness. A stage covered in shadows, cheers turning to jeers, and a soft scream echoing through the void. "Stop!" Tanya yelled, chest tightening as the memories clawed at her from within. She swayed, gripped by an inexplicable force, and it felt as if invisible hands were tugging at her, desperate to pull her into the abyss. The woman pressed on, her voice now an incantation, each word a desperate plea for understanding. Tension flooded the room like rising water. Shadows wriggled, dark fists clenching and unclenching as the stories flowed. Tanya felt the pulse of an unseen energy wrap around her heart. "What do they want?" she whispered, afraid of what might be revealed. "They want to be remembered," the woman said, breathless as if just realizing it herself. "What they lost. What Michael lost." Without warning, a shriek cut through the silence, a sound from the very depths of anguish that clawed at Tanya's instincts. "We have to go," she shouted, but the woman wouldn't waver. "No, I can feel it. There's something here, hidden in the words," she insisted, frantically turning the pages. "The truth lies within." The shadows jerked, recoiling as if stung. In that flickering, tension-filled moment, Tanya understood. This wasn't just about Michael's unfinished stories. It was a gateway. If they could unlock it, perhaps they could unshackle the lost spirits clinging to the edges of existence. Maybe if we understand them, we can free them. Tanya's voice shivered with sudden courage, a spark flickering amidst fear. She stepped closer to the woman, daring a glance at the curling script. "Help me," the woman implored, desperation laced with determination, as she pushed the script into Tanya's trembling hands. "You need to read." Tanya gripped the pages, a flood of cold energy coursing through her. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. "What I know is heavy. What Michael carried is heavy," she murmured, feeling tears prick her eyelids as visions swirled in her mind. As she steadied herself to read, the shadows began to writhe, twisting violently, whispering in angry tones that brushed against her skin like icy fingers. Fragments of laughter, soft cries, and unfinished words washed through her. Suddenly, the weight became unbearably oppressive, and Tanya felt herself teetering on the edge of a chasm. The choice of truth loomed larger than ever. Would she expose Michael's hidden tales and potentially unleash the wrath of the angry spirits? A shadow lunged, a clawed arm reaching through the darkness, intent on claiming her. "Don't!" the woman screamed, eyes wide. In that split second, Tanya made her choice. She would not back down. She planted her feet firmly, heart racing as she opened the script, the words surging to life beneath her touch. "Michael, we're coming for you," she shouted, voice strong, emboldened by the desperate need for connection. And as she began to read, the shadows froze, their hunger palpable and intense. The shadows drew closer, anticipation hanging thick in the stagnant air. The souls seemed to listen, holding their breath as if waiting for her to unlock their fate. The atmosphere crackled with possibility, but in that moment of hope, Tanya felt something shift. A violent tug wrenched at her from behind, icy and relentless. What had she just awakened? Before she could react, the shadows surged forward, engulfing her with cold darkness. The woman's scream shattered the eerie stillness, but it was too late. Amongst the cacophony of whispers, a powerful wind blasted through the space, ripping the script from her grasp and sending it spiraling into the void. The shadows howled, a terrifying symphony of rage and loss echoing in her ears as Tanya fought against the darkness, breath escaping in frantic gasps. She realized this was only the beginning. What terrible truths awaited her in the swirling shadows? Where would this dark path lead them next? The darkness pressed tightly around Tanya, pulling her down, into a vortex where light and hope seemed to fade away. The shadows writhed, pulsating with malevolent energy, a chaotic whirlpool of lost souls crying for release. Her heart raced, each beat thundering in her chest as she desperately searched for a way to fight back. Fingers like ice brushed against her skin, sending shivers down her spine. "Fight!" the woman shouted, but the words felt like a distant echo, swallowed by the dark. Tanya clenched her fists, her breath hitching as fear clawed at her throat. She had come this far. She wouldn't let them take her now. Michael! She screamed, her voice quaking. In that moment, she felt an energy charge through her, igniting something deep within. Memories flashed before her. Michael's laughter, the infectious joy he brought to the world, the gentle soul that had captivated hearts. I will uncover your truth. With newfound resolve, Tanya pushed against the encroaching darkness, determination flooding her veins. She reached for the notebook, her lifeline, desperate to reclaim it. The shadows faltered, as if her defiance had shaken them. Together, she shouted to the woman, pulling her focus back to the scripted words that held the past within them. The woman nodded, her eyes fierce with understanding as they worked together. The shadows pulsed, resonating around them but not consuming them. The two women leaned into that raw energy, piecing together Michael's stories, each word resonating with unspooled threads of emotion and truth, weaving bridges between past and present. And with every word recited aloud, the spirits that danced through the room began to shift. Winds of sorrow spun slower, quieter, and the anguished cries turned to whispers of hope. A mix of nostalgia and grief flooded the chamber, enveloping them like a warm embrace instead of a suffocating grip. When Tanya spoke the last line of the tale, the one that held his essence, his struggle, his dreams, an explosion of light erupted around them, blinding and warm. The shadows writhed one last time, then began to melt away, as if unbinding from their earthly chains. Silence consumed the room. Tanya took a shaky breath, blinking against the afterglow. When her vision cleared, the woman stood beside her, dazed but alive. Did we do it? Her voice trembled with disbelief, hope glimmering like fragile glass. Yes, Tanya whispered, her heart swelling with relief. The stories set them free. The air felt lighter. Outside, light dawned, painting the edges of the broken cinema in hues of gold and pink. For the first time, she felt the weight of unspoken burdens lift, as if a piece of Michael's spirit had been restored. I need to share this, Tanya said, voice stronger. The world needs to hear his truth and understand what happened. Yes, the woman agreed, eyes sparkling with resolve. Let them know he was loved, that his pain wasn't in vain. As they stepped out into the light, the world was waking. The empty streets filled with the murmur of voices, fans, families, those who had long mourned the king of pop. Tanya felt a charge run through her, as if the strength of 1,000 spirits surged within her. Together, we'll tell the real story, she promised herself, determination simmering in her heart. They stood side by side, ready to face the world, ready to honor Michael's legacy, and determined to ensure his truth lived on. With a final glance back at the cinema, a place of shadows turned to light, Tanya left behind the darkness and stepped into a future that glowed with promise. As she walked ahead, she suddenly turned to the camera that had magically captured their story throughout. If you're listening, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and be part of this journey. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep the story alive. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, your theories, and your reactions about what you've just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, we uncover truths that will reverberate through time. And with that, Tanya stepped boldly into the brightness of a new dawn, leaving the past behind but carrying its weight of truth forward, forever changed.